This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I want to start today's video with a bit of a warning that the following statement is going to sound fantastical. It's going to sound conspiratorial, maybe even downright outrageous. But by the end of this video, I think you'll see that the gears are in motion for this agenda to eventually become a reality. So what's the topic for today's video? Directed energy weapons have been created to affect the human mind by altering our brainwave activity through the emission of specific frequencies. And this is all being done for the purposes of mind control. I told you it sounds fantastical and maybe even conspiratorial because that's what it is. People are conspiring to manipulate mankind through altered states of consciousness. And in this video, we're going to lay out some of the patents that have been filed to do just that. So let's do it. Alright, we'll start with this one here. U.S. Patent 5036858A, method and apparatus for changing brain wave frequency. And this one was filed back in 1990. A method for changing brain wave frequency to a desired frequency determines a current brainwave frequency of a user, generates two frequencies with a frequency difference of a magnitude between that of the current actual brainwave frequency and the desired frequency, but always within a predetermined range of the current actual brainwave frequency, and produces an output to the user corresponding to the two frequencies. And it sounds quite technical, so they include a diagram here explaining precisely how our brain waves can be affected by these various frequencies. Next, we have method and apparatus of varying the brain state of a person by means of an audio signal. Again, this was filed back in 1990. A method of varying the brain state of a person includes the steps of supplying the first audio signal to one ear of a person, supplying a second audio signal to the other ear of a person, and substantially continuously varying the frequency of at least one of the first and second audio signals to vary the brain state of the person. This is again using audio signals now in the form of waveforms to affect the human mind. Moving on, method and apparatus for translating the EEG into music and to induce and control various psychological and physiological states and to control a musical instrument, filed back in 1987. A method and apparatus for applying a musical feedback signal to a human brain or any other brain to induce controllable psychological and physiological responses. And again, it's filled with diagrams here explaining precisely how this can be done. And these all go into lengthy detail. I will include links to all of this at the end of this video. Method and apparatus for inducing and establishing a changed state of consciousness, filed in 1990. An electroacoustic device includes a sound generator as well as a system for producing synthetic human speech, connected to a modulating stage for superimposing the output signal thereof. The superimposed output signals are applied via an amplifier stage to one of a headphone system or a loudspeaker system. So again, we're talking about beaming sounds into people's brains to affect our alter our states of consciousness to their desired ends. Silent subliminal presentation systems here, filed around the same time, 1989. A silent communication systems in which non-neural carriers in the very low or very high frequency range or in the adjacent ultrasonic frequency spectrum are amplitude or frequency modulated with the desired intelligence and propagated acoustically or vibrationally for inducement into the brain, typically through the use of loudspeakers, earphones, or piezoelectronic transducers. Silent communication systems here. This invention relates in general to electronic audio signal processing and in particular to subliminal presentation techniques. And they go on here with more subliminals, methods of inducing mental, emotional, and physical states of consciousness include specific mental activity in human beings. This one is wild. Again, 1990 seems like a pretty popular year for obtaining these patents. A method having applicability in replication of desired consciousness states, in the training of an individual to replicate such a state of consciousness without further audio stimulation, and in the transferring of such states from one human being to another through the imposition of one individual's EEG superimposed on desired stereo signals on another individual by inducement of a binaural beat phenomenon. And again, this is pretty complicated stuff, but they have all the graphs, outlining. Here's the left-right brain, the maximum altitude, brain map of the neocortex, the various frequencies that need to be applied in order to achieve this. And it goes on. Nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors. Check this one out. Physiological effects have been observed in a human subject in response to stimulation of the skin within weak electromagnetic fields that are pulsed with certain frequencies near half a hertz or 2.4 hertz, such as to excite a sensory resonance. Many computer monitors and TV tubes, when displayed pulsed images, emit pulsed electromagnetic fields of sufficient amplitudes to cause such excitation. It is therefore possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer or monitor or TV set. For the latter, the image pulsing may be embedded in the program material, or it may be overlaid by modulating a video stream. So the TV programmers don't even have to be aware that their television program is potentially subliminally affecting people's psyche here because of the pulse frequencies that they are emitting back to the human brain. And this was filed back in 2001 to be able to do this from monitors. A method of an apparatus for inducing desired states of consciousness. Once again, this is improved methods in an apparatus for entertaining human brain patterns, employing frequency following response, or FFR techniques, facilitate attainment of desired states of consciousness. So here, again, we've got more diagrams of all the various tests they've been doing, the brain wave scans, because these are, again, experiments that have been put into practice. These are very, very lengthy explanations here of how all of these things work. Method and an associated apparatus for remotely determining information as to a person's emotional state. In a method for remotely determining information relating to a person's emotional state, a waveform energy having a predetermined frequency and a predetermined intensity is generated and wirelessly transmitted towards a remotely located subject. Waveform energy emitted from the subject is detected and automatically analyzed to derive information relating to the individual's emotional state. So we're quite literally talking about beaming frequencies towards a person to determine their emotional state, whether they're angry, sad, feeling remorseful, revengeful. Who knows? They can peer into your mind, it seems, with this technology and get an image back. Thought transmission unit sends modulated electromagnetic wave beams to human receiver to influence thoughts and actions without an electronic receiver. This one filed back in 2002. A thought transmission unit sends modulated electromagnetic wave beams over long distances to a human receiver to influence the thoughts, actions, or perceptions of the organism, with or without their consent, but without them requiring electronic receiver. This is absolutely phenomenal technology being filed for patents back in 2002. Moving on, we have electronic fringe field generator for manipulating nervous systems, filed back in 1998. Apparatus and method for manipulating the nervous system of a subject through afferent nerves modulated by externally applied weak fluctuating electronic fields tuned to certain frequencies such as to excite a resonance in neural circuits. Depending on the frequency chosen, excitation of such resonance causes in human subjects relaxation, sleeplessness, sexual excitement, or the slowing of certain cortical processes. So again, this is quite literally using these frequencies to affect our nervous system in such a way that will make us feel various feelings depending on what they tune these frequencies into and how they want you to feel. Communication system and method including brainwave analysis and or use of brain activity. This is getting right into the sci-fi. Filed in 1998, a system and method for enabling human beings to communicate by way of their monitored brain activity. The brain activity of an individual is monitored and transmitted to a remote location. Example, by satellite. At this remote location, the monitored brain activity is compared with pre-recorded normalized brain activity curves, waveforms, or patterns to determine if a match or a substantial match is found. If such a match is found, then the computer at the remote location determines that the individual was attempting to communicate the word or the phrase or the thought that is corresponding to the match stored normalization signal. Again, we're talking about mind reading with this waveform technology. Apparatus for audibly communicating speech using the radio frequency hearing effect. Now we're getting into transmitting voices directly into people's heads. A modulation process with a fully suppressed carrier and input processor filtering to produce an encoded output. For amplitude modulation and audio speech processor filtering. Intelligible subjective sound is produced when the encoded signal is demodulated using the RF hearing effect. So again, they've got diagrams here explaining exactly how this can be done. We're talking about putting speech through various frequencies being decoded by the human brain as an actual voice. Multifunctional radio frequency directed energy systems. Okay, now we're getting into the literal weapons. This was designed by Raytheon Company, a defense company. An RFDE system includes an RFDE transmitter and at least one RFDE antenna. The RFDE transmitter antenna direct high-power electromagnetic energy towards a target sufficient to cause high-energy damage or disruption of the target. This is quite literally energy beams, utilizing various radio frequencies against an enemy, pointing it directly at a target. Dual-use RF directed energy weapon. There's disclosed dual-use RF direct energy weapon and imager. And look at the diagram here. This is quite literally a frequency energy beam weapon that can be fired at a subject. This was filed back in 2007. In fact, it was only just a couple of weeks ago that here, US says 16 people were affected by unexplained health problems at Havana Embassy. A lot of people are under the impression that they've been hit with a sonic weapon. How could the sonic attack on US diplomats in Cuba have been carried out? If an acoustic weapon is responsible for the attacks on US diplomats, it's likely to be ultrasonic. So it looks like, this mysterious sonic attack on US diplomats based in Cuba raises questions. People are already noticing that some of this technology seems to be being used right now. Couple more here. Pulsative manipulation of the nervous system, filed back in 1998. Here's a method and apparatus for manipulating the nervous system by imparting subliminal pulsative cooling to the subject's skin at a frequency that is suitable for the excitation of a sensory resonance. And we also have methods and devices for producing a desired brain state, filed back in 2000. A method and device for the production of a desired brain state in an individual contains the means for monitoring and analyzing the brain state, while a set of one or more magnets produces fields that alter this state. And again, we're talking about using frequencies, magnets, and various pulsating techniques to essentially control what you're thinking. Not only the input, but also the output. Again, all of these are documented in a lot of detail. Finally, we have the apparatus and the method for remotely monitoring and altering brain waves. Here is an apparatus and a method for censoring brain waves at a position remote from a subject, whereby electromagnetic signals of different frequencies are simultaneously transmitted to the brain of the subject, in which the signal interference with one another, they interfere with one another to yield a waveform which is modulated by the subject's brain waves. The interference waveform, which is representative of the brain wave activity, is retransmitted by the brain to a receiver where it is demodulated and amplified. The demodulated waveform is then displayed for visual viewing, and it's routed to a computer for further processing and analysis. So we're quite literally talking about taking the image from off your brain and putting it onto a computer screen so they can analyze what's going on in our heads. This is unbelievable. Like I said, it's almost straight out of science fiction, and I'm going to include a link to all of these patents in the description below so you can check all of these out for yourself. I'd strongly suggest you look into these. This is pretty wild, guys. Be sure to check the links in the description for all of the sources to these patents, and I'll also leave a link at the end of this video to a video report that I produced over 5 years ago now, titled MK Ultra and the Canadian Connection. If you haven't seen that one yet, you'll definitely want to check it out. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share this video if you found the information useful, and if you'd like to support our efforts, you can do so by becoming a PFT patron at patreon.com/pressfortruth, or if you'd like to contribute directly, you can do so at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Keep fighting the good fight, my friends, and stay tuned. We've got a lot more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth.